Hi, I'm Bobby, the host of Hyper Obsessed. Thanks for hitting play. Love that. Just popping by to let you know this podcast is not so kid-friendly. Also, no one on this show claims to be an expert in any way. Well, besides me. Not many know this, but I'm an expert in the sacred arts of sleeping. What? See, it's funny because, you know what? No. Cue the music. Yeah. Okay, but I'm gonna do my intro. Okay. For the first time.
Go for it.
Ooh. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hyper Obsessed, a podcast about life's not so little obsessions. I'm your host and friend, Bobby Lewis. Today, I'm joined here with my not so expert guest, Keziah Mills. What's today's topic, Keziah?
I believe today's topic is the Sapir Whorf Hypothesis.
Yes. Sapir Whorf Hypothesis, introduced to me by Keziah, I did not know this before she mentioned it, is a hypothesis first advanced by Edward Sapir in 1929 and subsequently developed by Benjamin Whorf that the structure of a language determines a native speaker's perception and categorization of experience. I got that off Google because I did not know what this was at all. And it sounds really cool. And I'm sure you can shed some light on it. What, tell me about it, but first, I guess I should introduce you, right? Keziah Mills is an artist, activist, and dear friend. Her hobbies include laughing, gardening, and rebelling against conformity. You have anything to add about yourself?
That sounds great to me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There you go. That's her in a nutshell, right there. Yeah, so what is Sapir Whorf Hypothesis in your own words?
It's basically the notion that the language that we speak affects the way that we think, and in turn, the way that we interact with the world. Have you ever seen the movie Arrival?
No, what's that?
I think Amy Adams is in it, and she's like maybe a linguistic professor.
I remember that movie. They actually made a language for
the
aliens, right?
Sure.
Like, they actually got a linguist to create a language for them.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but you haven't seen it?
I don't think I have. I think I saw parts of it, and then I saw, like, a commercial or something. And then I just found, like, I'm on Tumblr all the time, so I see fun facts about it. And they, like, apparently they got, like, a linguist to actually develop, like, a whole, like, so they just have a freaking language now for one movie, and they haven't done anything else with it.
Well, a spoiler-free summary of what I'm trying to get at is, like, as the, like, linguistic professor, Amy Adams goes and she tries to communicate with aliens, and as she's picking up on their language, she sort of notices changes in herself and her abilities because of that. So it's basically almost entirely about the Sapir Whorf Hypothesis.
Oh. Was it based on it?
I don't know if that was, like, the starting point for the movie.
Oh.
But I know that it's like a key
thing.
Part, yeah.
Oh. So I guess, like, putting it not in alien terms, but if I learned a new language, like I learned Japanese or Spanish, like the way I would think would kind of change a little bit, like in getting more into the culture?
Well, so they conducted a study comparing, like, people who spoke English and Greek versus people who speak Cantonese. And what they found was people who spoke English and Greek actually were worse at saving money than people who speak Cantonese because of the way that we treat the past, present, and future. So in English, you would say, like, on Saturday, I will meet Bobby. I will meet my friend.
Yeah.
But in Cantonese, it basically translates to, like, on Saturday, I meet Bobby. So future you is hypothetically, like, more palpable, and so it's easier to save because you're saving for yourself rather than, like, some far-off future you.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like the future in one language is closer than the future in another language, therefore how we treat it is different?
Yeah, that's just, like, one example of it. I mean, like, in every language, or most languages, things are pretty gendered, which also changes the way that people think and act towards like objects, like a table or a key, the gender's different in Spanish compared to German, let's say. So the way that you interact with it can be a little bit different.
So, I don't know. So, like, what are some examples of people learning? Do you have any, like, examples of people learning a new language and then suddenly, like, their worldview is different or, like...
I mean, I don't know that I have any personal examples. We took Spanish for a number of years in school, but I feel like, I don't know, that was mostly like singing and playing games.
That's true. Movies.
But that's kind of, I don't know, I definitely wouldn't say that I speak Spanish fluently, but you kind of pick up more from games and songs and movies than you expect to.
That's true. So why is it important, this hypothesis?
I think that language broadly is really important to society because it mediates our experience of the world. So everything that we experience and express to one another is done through language. And because there's just like a finite amount of words that exist in the English language, obviously it could never fully and accurately represent what we're actually experiencing. But I think that the way that we categorize things, and especially the way that we categorize people, affects the way that we treat them on a personal level, but also a structural level. Mm-hmm. So if something is categorized as like a problematic thing, then it'll be treated as such, even if it's not necessarily that.
So like the weight that we put on words or the energy that we use words, it kind of like chicken and the egg, like it creates that.
Yeah, it's totally a feedback loop of like reinforcing the name that has come before. Have you ever heard of stereotype threat?
No, what's that?
So they basically have conducted studies on students taking the SATs and maybe the ACTs.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
And I think for some of the participants, they had a primer, so they brought up the fact that African American students tend to perform worse, and in African American students in that subgroup perform worse as a result, compared to the control group who didn't have a primer.
Oh, so because they weren't even told, like, who performs worse in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, if people have low expectations of you, it makes sense, like, that you should sort of absorb that into your identity and think, like, well, I'm not going to do good anyways. Like, why? Well, why should I try? And two, like, this is who I am, I guess, because people say so.
Yeah.
Because of the power of language.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that. I know. So, like, that kind of brings up that question of, like, you know, we're doing all these studies and, like, observing all these things. And then if that's true, then the statistics that are out there, like, what, you know, listening to them, is that something we should even be doing? Or,
what do you mean?
Like, so just based on that situation, they put out, like, a study, right? And then that study became true only because the people heard about it and thought of it as true. So if we're hearing all these, like, you know, like if we're hearing, you know, studies, oh, this group does worse in this situation.
Yeah.
You know, like, what's the point of putting that study out?
Well,
if it's gonna kind of create the situation.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it's still important information because, like, where it's dangerous is, yes, where it's, like, reinforcing that, like, educational divide, let's say, and making students perform worse. But I think that a lot of the issues with those psychological studies is, like, once people take that information, like, from that data, they wrongly assume that it's, like, a biological defect.
Like, it's inherent?
Yeah, sure. Like Darwin and evolution. Have you ever heard of, there's this guy who's, like, Darwin's cousin.
Darwin has a cousin that's famous as well?
Yeah, but he sucks.
Oh.
His name's Francis Galton.
Oh.
And he, from Darwin's ideas, came up with the idea of, like, social Darwinism.
Oh.
Have you ever?
Yeah, I've heard of that, but I'm not familiar with. When you learn something and then immediately forget it when you don't need it anymore. That's me 24/7.
One of those things. Sure.
So that's that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I don't know how I'm going to edit out this. I really don't. Okay, well, we have... Hopefully I don't get copyrighted or something like that. Our neighbors are lively. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I don't know what else to do, you know? Like, we're in the middle of a conversation. Yeah, let's just keep going. And you know what? It's first waffle. Side note, I had a teacher in high school, and he taught the same class for multiple groups of students, different times a day. We were the first class he taught. He called us the first waffle. If at the end of the class, he didn't like what he did, he went, you guys are the first waffle anyways. I'll do something different with the second class. And we're like, great, thank you. Thanks for that. So we were the first waffle.
Definitely feel like that as like the oldest child sometimes.
Okay, so Darwin had a cousin. No one liked him, but he created social Darwinism.
It's not that no one liked him. It's just that he sucks.
What does that meaning? What does that mean?
Like, there are many times in history where I feel like, yes, science can be used for good, but it also can be used to justify a pre-existing like social hierarchy and keep people marginalized and disenfranchised.
Yeah.
And so Francis Galton was definitely an agent in that regard. I don't know. Because he took the idea of evolution.
Yeah.
And he applied it to society at whole. Not like, I guess using biology to justify racism.
Oh.
Right. So measuring skulls and brains and using that as a way of saying that like people of color are inferior.
But like, okay, so I guess I'm not that familiar with it. What about measuring skulls did that even, why would that prove that? Do you know? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly.
I mean, I'm sure it was all bullshit anyways.
Yeah, I think it was mostly just like, black people have like this size head compared to white people generally. So they're dumber. Haha.
I think, didn't they do that with, not only with people of color, but they did that with like gendered, like women and men. Like they measured the skulls. I know what I'm thinking of.
What?
When they, you know how they finally found Amelia Earhart?
No.
They finally found her, and the only reason they found her is because they already had her.
Wow.
But the guy didn't think a woman could have that size of a skull.
Oh my god.
And so they, like, because they were, sexist, so they're like, all women have small skulls, all men have big skulls. They're like, no, that can't be her, that's too big of a skull. And then they went back and they went, okay, dude, you measured the skull, and this, like, skeleton was found exactly the same place. It was kind of the same time frame of when she would have died. It was like everything matched up but the size of the skull. And so the guy was like, yeah, no, that's not her.
Wait, who put this guy in charge of Amelia Earhart's skull?
It's all the guys. God.
Wow, I didn't know they found her.
Yeah.
No one told me that.
Well, it wasn't that, I don't know why it wasn't that big.
How long ago?
The news. I don't know. Time doesn't make sense in my brain, so I really can't tell you. Probably like a year,
Time's
maybe.
Time's a social construct.
Time is a social construct. One that I have yet to learn.
I started reading this book called The Order of Time by this Italian astrophysicist named Carlo Rovelli. And he writes really beautifully, kind of poetically, but it makes it almost even more difficult to understand the astrophysics of time, believe it or not.
Because he, like, writes so poetically?
Yeah. So I have to read...
You have to interpret poems. It's like, why would you,
over multiple times. Could just be me. Maybe I'm stupid.
No, I'm sure. Because, I mean, that is an interesting combination of, like, science and poetry, right? Poetry, you have to interpret it. Science,
you also have to interpret it.
You have to interpret it, but also, like, interpret it so you can find facts. But poetry can mean anything to other people, so if you're trying to combine those two, you're creating subjectivity in science, which
I don't know. I think that
interesting.
We sort of, as a society, maintain the belief that science is completely objective, or at least scientists should be completely objective. But there's so much danger in claiming objectivity in science, specifically because of people like Francis Galton, who are saying, like, even though I've been completely objective in this experiment, which, like, supports my hypothesis that black people are bad, quote unquote, then they like lay claim to a truth that doesn't actually exist.
That's not real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like how Amelia Earhart could have been found hella long ago.
Yeah.
Dang.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I brought that up because in the book he's just like is talking about how time is a lot more different than the way that humans perceive it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if different species perceive time in different ways. Or like, because you know how apparently, I mean, you see it in movies. I don't know if it's true in real life, but when there's certain planets you can go to and like it's slow. Like when you go, like time is slower outside in space than it is, or faster, or something like
gravity.
That, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So time is like more intangible and tangible at the same time when considering that. Like it's quantifiable, but also it exists in its own like area. I don't know. It's very discussing time freaks me out. Let's move on. How do you connect with Sapir Whorf hypothesis?
How do I connect with it?
Yeah, how do you connect with it?
What do you mean?
Like why does it interest you so much? Like what okay, well how about when did you first learn about it and how did it kind of make you be like, "Oh, I want to learn more about this?"
I guess I first learned about it like freshman year of college.
Yeah.
Mostly because we were reading about it, just like a quick little, maybe there was like one article. But I just found it really fascinating because obviously, I don't know, freshman year, that was like 4 years ago, almost 5.
Yeah.
It stuck with me because it continues to be more and more relevant as I consider the language that I use with myself and with the people around me, and that in turn determines the way that I treat myself and the people around me.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I feel like that the hypothesis, of language, like, you're thinking about different, like for me, initially I think about different languages, and how they interact, but also languages of generations, because like how we spoke in the 50s versus how we speak now will be completely different, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, like, sometimes, when I'm speaking to like parental figures or something like that, they're like, what the heck are you even talking about, dude? And, you have to explain something that's so inherent in you because that's the language that you've learned. It's like humor is different and, how we ingest media is different and everything just based on how we talk to each other.
Yeah.
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 I think it's so fascinating the way that we interact with each other and like our conversations are being so massively changed by social media. Just like a constant conversation on so many different topics and levels, and it's like the speed of that is also insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like language develops so quickly. It's kind of crazy.
It's dangerous because I feel like there were so many times when I started like using a word sort of ironically, and they just kind of got incorporated.
Oh my
into
god!
my
Did I tell
everyday.
you?
What?
You know how Facebook sends you fucking memories all the time, and I'm like, I don't want these.
Yeah.
Please don't send them to me.
Yeah, keep them to yourself.
Let's keep them to your freaking self. 2011 me. She loved the word swag, and I don't think it was ironic. I'm going to tell you right now. I think she just genuinely liked it. I promise you, there was a post that said, "Just got myself some breakfast, swag." Like, that was that was the post, Zaya. I don't know. Like, what? First of all, why did I think I needed to... So that makes me think, did I post it because I wanted people to know that I was using the word swag? Or did I post it because I wanted people to know I was having breakfast? Or both? Or both.
Why not both? Yeah, I mean, that must have been, like, middle school for you. And that was a time.
That was a time.
Yeah. Middle school is bad for everyone involved.
Middle school, 2012, right? We thought everyone was going to die. So I feel like that kind of shaped.
Did you really think that?
Did I really think that?
Yeah. Do you remember how you spent, like, the day of the rapture or whatever?
I don't remember how I spent it, but I do remember what I thought about it at the time. I'm the type where I go, ugh, that can't be true. And then another part of me goes, but anything's possible. So throughout the year, I was like, am I going to die? No, you're not. am I? No. Like, that was just, it was just back and forth to a point where the day of, I think I forgot about it because I kept thinking so much about whether I even believed it or not that the next day everyone was like, we're alive. And I went, oh, that was yesterday. And so it didn't even matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I went to the mall with some friends, and while we were there, we were like, wait, isn't the world supposed to end today? Oh, yeah.
Mm. I always remember that Vine, the Vine, like, did we die in 2012? It's like, no, but you're gonna wish you did. There's that Vine where she's like back from the future. Mm-hmm. Look it up. I don't know the name of it. You'll find it. It's somewhere in a Vine compilation. Mm. Yeah, so language is crazy. And how we develop.
Crazy, man.
One thing that I've noticed about language, you mentioned that it develops really quickly.
Yeah.
And that's true. And I don't know why I didn't think this was going to happen to me. Like, I really thought, in this generation, like in my generation, that stuff from future generations aren't going to happen. You know how generations, you'll say a word and they're like, what does that mean? Uh-huh. What is swag?
Did that happen?
It happens to me all the time now. And I'm like, I'm
younger
people about, like, I'll see posts or, like, like TikToks or like posts on like Tumblr or Twitter or something. Like, people will use words and I'm like, is that a new thing I have to learn? What we're just still developing new words and I wasn't there for when they were developed? Like, what's happening? I can't think of a word right. Oh, one that confuses me. I kind of know what it means. But I don't know how to, like, if I were to use it, I don't know how vibe, like, they're using it in a different way. The word vibe, like vibe check.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Like, what's a vibe? What the fuck? Is it mood? Like, is it equivalent to saying mood? Do you know?
The other day,
oh no,
I've been receiving. You know how, like, you have people that you send memes to,
yes,
or not? Your meme people.
Yeah.
So, like, I've been getting a few of those vibe check memes from people, but I'm, like, too afraid.
You don't know what it means either. Oh my god.
So I'm just
people, what is that other meme? People keep sending me vibe checks, and at this point I'm too afraid to ask what it means.
Yeah.
So you also have been experiencing that. So I used to, when I was younger, this is another thing that's like, memes and language kind of go hand in hand.
Totally,
right?
totally. They're a new language.
Yeah, memes is a new way of language, and it's also...
It's my love language.
I know it's your love language. She gets mad at me when I do not send her back Twitter memes.
Okay, you're making... It's after, like, a month of sending you so many.
That's fair. But to be fair, you follow everyone I follow, mm-hmm. and all the memes I see on Twitter are because you liked them. Mm.
That's some curated content right there.
Whatever. I edit your tweets, so I feel like that's my love language. That's my love language to you. What was I saying?
Memes and language.
Oh, yeah. So when I was younger, like high school, middle school, I used to be there for when memes were developed. Like... You
can see it picking up
like
traction.
I was there for the first time it was used and then all the different versions of it, and then it became a big meme. Like the goat one, that goat meme, like the goat like would lick the salt and then we would say like, God, what would we say? Oh, it was like a weird goat meme. I gotta look it up.
Okay.
I'm looking it up.
Okay.
I can't not know what this meme was.
Okay.
Goat. Crave that mineral. Do you remember Crave That Mineral? It was this really old 2000s. It was this really old Crave That Mineral.
I crave that mineral.
And it was because someone found a picture of a goat, like, on the most, like, it was basically a slanted rock where it was barely on it. You don't even know how it's...
It's basically a wall.
It's just a wall. And it's somehow fucking on this wall, and it's licking it, and everyone's like, how did this goat get up there? How did this, and then someone said crave that mineral, and everyone went wild for that joke, and people just kept saying crave that mineral, and I don't know what, it was in 2014. It was in 2014. And it originated on Tumblr. And I was usually
Oh my god, there's
on
2
Tumblr.
of them.
Yeah.
There's multiple.
There's multiple. What do you mean?
Goats.
Oh yeah, there's multiple goats on this freaking wall. And so Crave That Mineral became a giant thing. And that was like kind of the beginning of when memes would go viral and kind of turn into things that you didn't expect them to turn into, you know? And that's when, like, the beginning of language of, you know, starting off with something that kind of, like, Crave That Mineral. Like, like, in context, it makes sense. And then taking it out of context, like, that became a giant thing. Like, that was kind of one of the first, like, 2014 was when taking something that was funny and taking that language out of context to a point where it doesn't make sense anymore is even funnier. So people would take Crave That Mineral and put it with things that weren't even like related to the original meme anymore. And it was hilarious to us. And so yeah, I used to be there for memes being created.
And now, who got time for that?
I don't know. People say vibe check, and I see a bunch of memes for that, and I'm like,
Should we look it up?
Yeah. I guess that's what we're doing now. Where did vibe check come from? Wow, that's the first thing that Google...
Know your meme. Recent. That's a recent...
Yeah, it's...
September 2019.
It's definitely...
This is a current meme, ladies and gents.
Wait. But the origin's from 2011. Okay. This is knowyourmeme.com, people. I guess this is who we are now. This is where we're at. Vibe check is a slang term used to invite people to express their present emotional state. Oh. Okay. In September 2019, the phrase began seeing use in ironic shitposts in which it was paired with a picture showing a violent act. Huh. But the origins from April 18th, 2011, Urban Dictionary user Rastabones posted a definition of vibe check on the site.
So vibe check is literally just, like, another way of saying mood?
But it's like, it's interesting, because it's like, you know how we have some words that are related to each other, but they're not the same thing?
Yeah, totally.
You know,
totally.
like, it's more a synonym rather than, like, a direct... translation.
Yeah.
Because this one, like with mood, it's like, oh, yeah, that's a mood. But vibe check is like, how are you feeling right now? And so it's kind of like a different action. So mood is reaction.
It's an interaction.
Yeah, but a vibe check is an action, right? Yeah. Language is crazy.
I'm checking your vibe. That's what's happening.
Yeah, so I keep seeing vibe check memes, and quite frankly, I was confused, and I'm probably still going to be confused, even though I know what it means. Like, I think that's the thing with language. If you're not there for the development of it, there's like a different connection you have than learning about it after the fact. Because like with this meme, I'll see them and I'll think they're funny, but they're not going to be as funny as they were if I was like there.
The evolution of
if like the culture was developed already. So now me seeing the different memes, like they're humorous, but they're not connecting with me in the same way.
I remember when memes used to be like one picture, top text, bottom text. And look how far we've come. Yeah,
they were very simple. Now it's very Dadaism and all that. Dadaism. Do you know that?
Not really.
Dadaism is an art movement.
Yeah.
And I think that our memes have become much more connected to Dadaism. It was in the 1916s, 1922, and a lot of the times the images just kind of didn't make sense to each other.
Yeah.
And it was very like collage-like, but chaotic.
Oh my god.
And the cool thing about it is, they made sense to the artist in like context, but without context, they were still art. Mm-hmm. So I feel like today our memes are kind of like a humorous Dadaism or a modern Dadaism.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder what was happening in the world when this art movement occurred.
Oh, it was
early 20th century?
I thought there was like
What major
World
events?
War One. World War One was happening. So Dadaism was kind of I forgot
Response.
which. Yeah. So,
I mean, you can kind of draw parallels between like living during World War One and like facing the reality of like, wow, we might die.
yeah,
And today with like the issue of climate change,
it's connected definitely. I mean, because a lot of the time, and then on top of that, not only is it climate change, but there's a lot of other things happening. But the media and the way that we absorb news, like in 1915, they get news, on in the newspaper or word of mouth, but they weren't constantly getting a stream of bad news, good news back and forth. Like I get pings every hour about what's happening, or like the recent shooting, or the recent someone died because it was so cold outside they just froze to death. That just is normal news that happens every day, just constantly getting that. So that energy, like that, all those bad vibes, an escapism is a lot of what people, especially our generation and the generation Z, right? We're millennials, Generation Z.
Gen Z. Yeah.
Gen Z. Like there's kind of a panic, and that panic, you can't be like living in that panic every day would be so hard. So
Sure.
finding an escapism through like memes and Dadaism.
Totally.
That's how we cope.
I
That's coping.
think that one of the reasons why, I mean, there are many reasons why memes are great, but one of them is that it's tapping into like collective human experience. And sometimes memes can be more niche, but it still taps into something that like more than one person is experiencing in this world with like a crazy fast news cycle. So it's kind of therapeutic in a way to recognize like I'm like putting this meme, this like little bit of my experience out there, and people are
relating to it, responding to it. Yeah,
totally.
And it's also a new discussion point that's not just bad things, bad things, bad things. It's just like a way of relieving something. So, do you know much about, like, the history of Sapir Whorf Hypothesis?
I'm sure I did
How it
at
came
one
about.
point. It's been a minute.
Apparently there are a lot of, I kind of did an overview of it, like I researched a little bit of it. But apparently there's kind of a discourse between like the two guys who invented it, but then also with people who talk about it. Do you know much about any of that discourse?
I'm not too sure about like the one between the two guys. I know that there are people who like are opposed to the Sapir Whorf hypothesis and don't think that your language affects thought.
What do you think of that?
About people being opposed to it? I don't know. I think it would be interesting to talk to one of those people, because I feel like, for me, at this point in my life, it feels like common sense, but I know that there are a lot of things that seem common sense to us as individuals just because it's stuff that we've read about over the years, that it's just kind of like cemented in our brain.
Studied, learned.
Yeah, so I kind of like take it as a given once I've accepted it into my like worldview. But like if someone were to present me with evidence that says otherwise, then I'd be willing to, I don't know, alter my opinion.
And I think that's also an interesting thing that kind of affects how we talk to people, of like assumed common knowledge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like not only is language affecting how we speak, but how we think is affecting the language we're putting out. Therefore, creating, again, with the chicken and the egg kind of effect.
Yeah.
So if you assume one thing, or your brain is kind of wired, or you were educated in order to think a certain way, certain different ideas wouldn't come up. Like, one of my friends, she was working on a project, and she asked me to kind of create research questions based on like the theme of communications, or like the the subject communications for this food fair. And all of my questions were very ethics-based, because that's what I studied in college. But communications is more just pure observation. It's not necessarily, what's good or what's bad. Like, is this something we should be doing? It's more what's happening right now. And I, for the life of me, could not think of any what's happening right now questions, which was really weird, because I kind of skipped the what's happening right now question. It kind of created an assumption in me of like, oh, I already know the issues that are happening. I've studied them. So, is this okay? Should we still be doing this? What is it? And so just the way of creating questions was changed. The way that I set up, inquiries to the world was just in general different.
Yeah. What class was this for?
She does homework for a rich girl and gets paid for it.
Oh, right.
So,
cool. We've all been there.
I wish I could get someone to pay me for homework. Truly, genuinely. That would have been so nice. I hate essays.
I wish I would have been paid to take classes.
Been paid to take classes?
Yeah.
Huh. That would have been nice too. But like a class you like.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be like discrete mathematics, for example.
No, I'm not a math person, so that wouldn't work.
Well, it depends how much they're paying, I suppose.
If it's like $100 an hour, sure. I'll do that. Advanced mathematics. I'll just do YouTube tutorials or something like that.
Yeah, have you ever seen... I've scrolled past like clickbait articles about parents who have built their home from scratch based off of internet tutorials.
No, I haven't seen those. That's a thing?
Yeah.
Are they stable?
I don't know. I didn't click on it.
Oh.
Luckily. Or it depends how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is clickbait. Like how that has developed, within the years of language, and like how media is like portrayed in the first place. Because I'm sure clickbait existed when it was just newspapers, but it just had to be in a different way, and it had to be in a different language,
Yeah, I mean, I've been subject to many clickbait articles just because it like really gets your attention, and especially if you're like meant to be studying or something, then I want to know like the 5 tricks that Nancy uses to make all the dentists jealous, or I don't know. Like,
I wonder with clickbait, right? Because there's certain clickbaits that work on me and certain ones that don't. And the ones that work on me are very specific to like my wants and needs. And I know there are some clickbaits where they're just like very general, like they're just trying to get you to be interested in the news. But then other clickbaits, like they don't really seem like clickbaits, because they're really just like, for example, I wanted to learn about a video game, and it just popped up when I was about to type something in Google, and it was like, 5 new facts that we learned about this video game coming up. And I was like, oh, yes! And I totally forgot what I was going to type in, and I just clicked that, right?
Yeah.
And then as you're reading, in between the paragraphs, they give you new links to different articles. And so I'm like, I'm scrolling back up for that article. So I read it, I finish reading it, and then I scroll all the way back, and I click that article.
Yeah.
Then that article gets me somewhere else. So like the different...
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was in the rabbit hole of clickbait, but it didn't feel like clickbait to me because it was about something specific that I liked.
Oh. Well, I feel like if you enjoy it.
Yeah, but the whole thing, well, I guess, if with clickbait, it's specific to you get there and then you feel like you were baited and you don't actually enjoy what happens? Is that how we're defining clickbait?
I don't know.
There's another language thing.
Yeah.
Because clickbait now, it's new category of just an article that makes you like need to be interested in it, or clickbait.
It catches your attention.
Yeah.
But the actual content when you get there is like doesn't fully deliver.
Maybe.
Or I don't know.
But
conception.
doesn't that depend on like, because one time we read an article and it was just a repetition of itself, and it honestly it was
no
Dadaism
sense.
to its finest.
It did not make
it
any
made
sense.
no sense.
But I like enjoyed reading it.
I enjoyed it
because it was so
funny.
bad.
Yeah, it was funny and bad, and honestly, the title gave more information than the entire article.
Yeah. I don't think that it would have been as funny if I wasn't with you.
That's true. If I was reading it
right past that.
Honestly, if I wasn't reading it with someone and enjoying the badness of it, I would have read the first paragraph and been like, I don't know what's happening, and just exited out. Like, I wouldn't have cared anymore at that point.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I guess who you're with, depending on the click, that
changes it. Because like, you have someone to discuss it with as you're going.
Yeah.
So we just made someone some money.
There you go. I know, they made so much money off of us
like
just
20 minutes that we were reading that.
It took 20 minutes to read that, because sometimes I told her to just reread it, because I had no idea what it was even trying to say. God, I wish we could find that article again.
No, I should have saved it to my phone.
Do you have any experiences with, just in general, of language, surprising you, or maybe you're discussing or in a situation with someone?
Well, okay, so I've taken Italian for like 2 years, and there's some words that they don't, or some things that they don't have a word for.
Oh.
So, like, I think that the word for kale and lettuce is the same. And
really?
Also the word for, like, cranberry and blueberry is the same.
Oh. So just berries in general.
I don't know. Yeah, some things they just, like,
that
decide not to rename, even though there's a difference there. Which is, like, I know that there are some cultures that don't really recognize the difference between lemons and limes as both, citrusy things that you put on food, generally. So they just kind of use it interchangeably. But I feel like in English, at least, we, like, draw a pretty strong distinction.
There's a lot of subcategories within English language, I feel like.
Yeah. So, which is why, like, I definitely would be open to changing my mind about the validity of the Sapir Whorf hypothesis. But in my experience, I just feel like if you're trained to see the world in a certain way through language, like you're taught through language, then that's how you'll look at the world. And it teaches you to be able to spot differences in the world that you wouldn't otherwise see. So there are, like, some languages that have, like, 20 plus words for snow, different kinds of snow that you and I would probably not. We would just be like, that's fucking snow right there. It's hard, like, or it's like melting.
Honestly, if someone asked me to say another word for snow, I'd be like, what, was the first one not good enough for you? I don't have any other words for snow. What are you talking about? Ice. Like, fun ice.
Yeah.
Ice fun, walking.
Fun ice.
Ice you don't eat immediately.
Frosty the Snowman body.
Sports ice.
Like, there was another study that was looking at different language speakers, like, perception of color. And, like, I think in maybe Russian, they draw a distinction between, like, a different hue of blue that people can't really see as a difference. Like, comparing the two side by side, they think that's the same. But Russian people can see the difference because they have a name for that distinction already.
Wow.
Yeah.
I honestly, language is something that, like, I am very fearful to even go into.
Why?
Because I'm not good at learning it very much. It's just something, like, I already have memory problems. So, like, also it's, like, there's so many different, like, it's the thing that you're talking about. Like, there's so many, like, you have to kind of create a new perspective for yourself. And that's something that, like, is very taxing when you're learning something new. So, like, that energy. Something that I do really want to learn is sign language, which is, like, a whole new, like, a different perspective in its own
sign
thing.
Language.
Yeah, we should do that. They have on YouTube this guy. There's multiple people that do it, but there's this guy who actually posts, like, lessons, like, full-on lessons, like, for you, and he, like, teaches you, and there's, like, sessions, so it's like a free class. You can find a lot of those on YouTube, and so I tried doing that, but it's very interesting because one thing that I've noticed is when I talk, when I'm unable to move my hands to talk, I can't remember what I'm trying to say. So, like, if someone forced my hands to stay on my thighs and I had to talk for about 15 minutes, it would take, like, it wouldn't work. So that's why when I'm driving, talking to people is hard because I have to keep both hands on the steering wheel most of the time. So sometimes I'm trying to talk to the person next to me and I go, oh, okay, hold on. And then I'm at a stoplight and then I can use at least one hand to do movement, you know?
Interesting.
And I think that's really interesting that, you know, the way we use language, each person has their own individual way of doing it. Like another thing I've noticed when I wear glasses and I can't see far, and when I take them off, when people try to talk to me, I can't hear them that well. I rely a lot on reading mouths. And I noticed this because, you know, one time I just didn't want to wear my glasses that day. I was like, had a headache and people were trying to talk to me and I honestly like I didn't know what they were saying like at all. I was like, I gotta go put my glasses on because whatever, like they were right there, you know, like I couldn't not hear them, you know. I was just like a lot of the time the connection of what their mouths were saying with the audio like connected with me. So those are two things that I noticed language wise of what I rely on. I feel like Gordon Ramsay wouldn't be able to talk if he couldn't move his hands. He moves his hands so much.
You should DM him.
I should.
And ask him to try.
To try talking for a minute without using his hands?
Yeah.
I can't do that. I wouldn't
give him 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
I bet he's up for the task.
You know what? I wouldn't put that on me. I don't know if I'm going to put that on him.
This is good information to know if we ever like play a board game where you need to talk. Like if we play King's Cup or something, I'm just going to like pin your arms to your side.
That's great. I gave you ammo for...
Oh, yeah.
Counting well.
Big time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Okay, so this is kind of like a final question I think I'm going to ask people, maybe. Depends on how relevant it is. But if I forgot all but one thing in this discussion, what would you want me to remember?
Just, I suppose, the central underlying notion that, like, the language that we speak could affect the way that we think about ourselves and the world around us, and in turn affect that behavior. Obviously, you don't need to be, like, citing the studies of it, but just, like, as something to mull over. I think on a day-to-day basis, it's interesting to pay attention to, like, the language that you use in reference to yourself. Like, even, I feel like I'm one to make self-deprecating jokes sometimes. That's just kind of like a habit or crutch that I lean on. But, like, recognizing if I do it too much, like, how that impacts my mood is important.
That's interesting because something that I used to say all the time was... What was it? Oh, like, I would say, kill me. Or, like, you know, when I was frustrated.
Yeah.
Or I would say... I hate myself, like that. Like when I was frustrated with something. And I realized, like, I decided to stop saying that to, like, test it out. And I realized, like, when I was frustrated with something and I wouldn't say that, I felt more optimistic to actually deal with the thing I was frustrated with rather than, like, stop. You know, like, I just wanted to quit. Like, okay, I'm frustrated with this thing, no more. But now, like, if I'm frustrated, I go, okay, fine, let's go. You know, and I say that now, which is something I didn't realize I said until just now, because that is something, that's what I say every time I'm irritated with something. I go, okay, let's go. You know, like, it's like, I'm frustrated, let's just keep moving on. So me just cutting out that language, you know, it's like cutting out unhealthy food or something, you know, it just makes you learn a different, healthier way of
coping
and dealing with
addressing problems.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you were great. I'm glad we got to put memes in there. I think I'm going to try to talk about memes every single episode.
You should.
Be aware, people.
Meme segment. Watch out.
Bum, 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 you know, have like
the air horn. We can add that later.
Like, I'll interrupt people in the middle. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, meme time. And then I'll read out some memes for people.
I feel bad because when I have conversations with people, I'm so used to, like, nodding and also saying, like, as, like, validation to them just when they're speaking. Like, it just happens kind of naturally. But obviously in this context where we're recording it and you're saying something, I'm like, I don't know. Fucking
It's hard to like validate when it's just audio, maybe.
Yeah, next time I'll just nod.
Well, you can say yeah too. That's fine.
No, I can work on it. Do you remember? So one of my freshman year roommates, her name was Shannon. When we were still living together, and she had a car, so we'd be driving around, and I kind of love seeing animals just out in public. I get really excited about that. So whenever I would see a dog, I would gasp really loudly, and she would like just tell me like, you cannot do that while I'm driving my car. You need to do something else. And so based off of that, I like trained myself to, whenever I see a dog, just shout, dog!
You know what's funny? Is because of that training that you did, I now do that to dogs. Because before, when I would see a dog, I go, aw, like that. Yeah. But now when I see dogs, I go, dog! Yeah. I just say dog. Or I say doggo, 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 puppy. Like, you know? Yeah. And I think it's because you started saying dogs.
Well, it's because of Shannon, really.
Yeah. But thank you, Shannon, for that habit.
Also something I need to unlearn, because, like, my last job was at a restaurant, and so I'd be, like, going to drop off the dessert or something, and I'd be like, dog! Even though, I'm working on it.
No, I love it. Keep that. I mean, at least they know what to expect, you know? You can't, you say dog. Yeah. Well, you say dog. Well, the dogs, no. The dogs wouldn't, I mean, dogs
humans. We're referencing the humans here. Yeah, I knew that.
She's so dog-oriented.
I knew that.
I'm like, oh, at least they know. She goes, yes, dogs know everything. I'm like, no, that's not what I was talking about.
They do.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the audience or plug or, you know?
No?
No? You don't want to say anything?
Not yet.
Not yet.
You know, I like to
when
keep
she's
my
back.
Private life private.
Sure. Dogs. So thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
And to end this note, why not a little vibe check meme, since we talk so much about it?
Sure.
Vibe check? I'm sorry. We only take vibe cash or vibe credit. Okay, bye. That's good.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
Yes.
Okay.